The world where heroes' weapons are chosen to be swords and knives. I chose a pistol as my main weapon, and my robust classmates laughed at me. Even the teacher thought I was crazy. It turns out that this is a world where heroes and monsters coexist, and even upgraded magic bullets simply can't do a bit of damage to heroes. So compared to modernized pistols, ancient weapons can exert more power. But the origin of this magical world originated from a novel I wrote. Only because one day after I broke off, I received in a mail from a reader who wanted to change my novel. But when I agreed, I accidentally came to the events of my novel with a face that had a question mark written on it. Well, after 2 weeks, I was somewhat gradually getting used to it, and it was only after these 2 weeks that I was able to confirm that I hadn't dreamt it, but had been reborn as a passerby in my own novel. After thinking for a long time, I guessed that the way to go back is to follow the main plot. When it develops to the place where I break off and the novel ends, I should have the chance to go back, but according to the length of the plot, it would take about 10 years. And this world is full of all kinds of dangers. So I chose to go to class at the school where this body is located. That is to say, the Tesseract Academy where the heroes are cultivated. And even more so, it's the main arena of the novel that I'm writing. Among the many volunteer voices of heroes with special talents, only a very few of the elite can become students of the Tesseract. Since the original owner of my body was able to join it, I thought there should always be something special about it. Seiki, I don't know about the talents of a wayfarer, but I hope I can be more or less helpful. My class in Tesseract is the central location of the novel. The key villains and antagonists as well as the protagonist of the novel are all in the truth class, and we will all have all kinds of encounters in this class in the next few days. And the thought of having to spend 10 years with this group of geniuses of theirs makes me feel more and more that the future is a bit confusing. In the evening after class, I return to the dormitory. But this is my door, but there is a quick. I thought this is the body owner Jin Chundong's belongings, but I do not want to open a look. Inside is actually my laptop. Its appearance made me surprised. Immediately after, the computer also automatically boot. However, it is written on the start synchronization, accompanied by a dazzling bright light. Jin Chundong, the character of all the things, began to synchronize to the Jin Heizhen. That is, my body. Even the ability value or career and so on are a little bit of synchronization. These things are clearly my original novel when I wrote the set of settings. I am very curious about who can send the computer to me after the synchronization is completed. The computer suddenly turned into a black screen. I also learned the exclusive omnipotent intervention settings. At this moment, I was no longer Jin Chundong, but became my original appearance. However, because of the effect of synchronization, all of my attributes were reset in their entirety, slowly placing the computer screen on the desktop. From amongst the screen, I could clearly see that this was indeed my original face. At the same time, one window after another could be seen in my surroundings, which I think was just the opening of my eyes in my setting. Of course, in the beyond self. The awakening that only occurs when the upper line of the in this world. People call it opening the eyes. When the eyes are opened, the person in question is able to learn about their values, talents, etc. in a datable way. Simply put, it means that one can see one's status bar. Currently, I have 2 talents, observe and read. After resetting my abilities, my numerical value was clearly lower than Jin Chundong's. There were a few things in the status bar, but the most conspicuous of them was the intervention setting and omnipotence. I didn't remember writing this ability, and I was able to increase my presence in the world, thus gaining SP points accordingly. The SP could be exchanged for 1 ability point. Looking at this omnipotence, I wondered if I was meant to increase my weight in the novel. Such a strange ability, coupled with the gift of my computer, was undoubtedly asking me to intervene in the main plot of this world. Just when I thought it was outrageous, a status window suddenly appeared. but it was full of question marks, and it needed the end of the main plot to be unlocked. It was a good thing that I was prepared to get involved in this world before. If I could get involved with the protagonist, I might be able to find a way to live from there. In that case, I needed to raise my strength as well in order to go through the plot smoothly. With that, I used the points to raise my ability value. In the novel I wrote, there was no concept of upgrading. The heroes all used to gain ability points as a means of being able to become stronger, whereas the points I had just added were all used to raise my luck. Luck was the opening ability value in my novel only. Overnight fixed ability, so is set to not be able to use points to raise, but I should be able to do it if I convert the points into SP points. So I hurriedly prepared to try to convert the 10 points I just gained finished. I used 9,000 SP points to increase my luck to 9. And right after that, I also accidentally triggered a mysterious luck, which surprised me a bit because my luck value is now at 9.1. The main character Jin Zuhao's magic ability value was around 9.0, so in comparison, I was indeed considered to have gotten lucky. The rest of my SP I was going to use to improve my perseverance. After all, I still had to survive the extreme training of the Rubik's Cube later on, and with the help of the super high luck points, my perseverance reached an unexpected 7.2 or so. Just when I thought I could continue to turn on the heat, the system found a serious error, so from now on, I can't use SP to make modifications to the fixed ability values, although it's a bit of a loss. But it's good that I've taken the opportunity to raise my luck and perseverance, and now I'm still left with 10000 care SP points given by the system. But it's better to wait until I think about it clearly waiting before I spend these points. The next day at the end of the morning exercise, our class instructor for the next year then went up to the stage. His name is Kim Soo-Hwo. With the classification of the major associations, belongs to the middle and upper level of the heroes. After the self-introduction, we entered the main topic of the day, and our first topic of the day was to select the main weapon, soon. Under the instructor's leadership, we entered the large equipment warehouse of the Magic Cube Academy, where there were many ancient weapons, and all the students were. While the dazzling array of equipment attracted them, the instructor hurriedly urged everyone to pick a weapon. After choosing a primary weapon once, it needed to be used for at least 6 months before it could be replaced. The students present chose their favorite weapon according to their own situation, and there were all kinds of weapons and other things in the equipment store. After watching the protagonist finish picking smoothly, I started looking for one that suited me. With my current familiarity, I simply couldn't use the weapons that the other students could use, and I wasn't familiar with those knives and swords. So my selection goals were clear. One was to be able to get started quickly, and the other was one that I had been exposed to in my original world. After looking around for a while, I settled on my target, but my choice attracted the attention of my classmates. The instructor, who heard the murmurs, just looked ahead and was surprised by my choice of weapon, because I actually picked up a small pistol, and many even couldn't help but laugh out loud. The instructor was also a bit puzzled. He was curious about the incident I used in the last military school, to which I calmly stated that I wanted to use a different weapon. Wen Yan instructor also no longer say much. The cube supports all the students' right to make their own choices, but regardless of whether the result is good or bad, we need to be responsible for ourselves. Some people already wondered if I was trying to draw attention to myself, and others were ready to teach me a good lesson during the simulated duel so that I could see the gap between the weapons. I was helpless about this. After all, I wrote the setting myself, and while guns are also excellent weapons in this world, that's limited to ordinary people who can't manipulate magic. In the novel, the magic bullets used within the guns in the setting are more powerful than metal bullets, but even so, among the heroes, guns are not popular. The first reason is the cap. No matter how strong the ability of the person using the gun is, The destructive power of the gun won't change as a result. The second was the myths and legends that materialized in this world. The weapons in those myths were real, so the longer the history and the stronger the source, the higher the rank of the weapon. That's why heroes love these ancient weapons. They can use them to break through the limits and take their strength to the next level. But this has nothing to do with me. After all, I'm not the main character of the manga, and I've never really used swords and other weapons. How can I compare to these Rubik's Cube students relative to me is an optimal choice? Now that I've already chosen a weapon, the next time is to obtain a talent. Talent is also known as supernatural ability. This is the root of the hero's powerful. General people will only have a talent, but there is a person exception. That is Jin Zhu Hao. In addition to the display of the Sword Saint, there are other unrevealed talent. On the other hand, after leaving the equipment warehouse, Jin Zhu Hao came into the training room, and from his mouth, the young girl in front of him was named Chai Yuya, seeing the bow and arrows in the other's hand. Jin Zhu Hao remembered that just now there was another archer in the truth class. However, his words made Chai Nayan very upset, because Chai Nayan thought that I was not even considered an archer, and even guessed that I had given up on being a hero. Of course, the conversation between them was unknown to me. After returning to my dormitory, I was ready to think of a suitable talent for myself, and I set that the first talent would also give me an additional 1,000 SP points. So I randomly knocked down a talent Divine Archer on my computer, and immediately afterward, I used SP points to finish setting it up. What I didn't expect was that after consuming the points, the status bar automatically modified the talent for me based on what I had written, being able to skillfully use all types of long-range weapons. This effect was very good in the future, apart from guns. I would also be able to use bows and arrows, and judging from the introduction of the Divine Archer, this was still a growth-type talent. After thinking about it for a while, I then settled on choosing the marksman. I'll be relying on him next. Walking to the end of the episode, time quickly came to the next day. Today, the teacher was talking about the strength of the Raider Tower and the dungeon, but having the observation and reading talents, I didn't need to be serious to easily grasp the contents of the theory class. As the name suggests, they allow me to observe people within my field of vision, even the contents of their smartwatch, and also allows me to read things in the computer anytime, anywhere, without a medium. At the end of the class, the teacher told everyone not to forget to review because the written test was coming up soon. When the teacher left, Chanayoon finally couldn't help but complain. Why do we have to learn all this theory? It shouldn't be time to shine in the real world. It seemed like his words came true. The next second, the truthful door was pushed open, and it turned out to be the instructor informing everyone to gather at the plaza in 20 minutes. Hearing this news, Chai Naeun was instantly ecstatic. Just as he had expected, the instructor was precisely the one who had sent everyone forward to participate in the actual combat training. But this was not good news for me. Arriving at the training ground, the instructor directly began grouping the 4 members of each team without much ado. For the sake of fairness, the lower-ranked students would be assigned with the higher-ranked ones, and this grouping would be maintained until the midterm exams. After the basic content is finished, the instructor turned on the machine to allocate the team. The protagonist team, I didn't care at all. What really surprised me was that I was actually in a group with Liu Yixia, which is a change from the plot of the novels that I'm familiar with. Just as the classic formula of all novels, the protagonist is always surrounded by the main character and his collision with him, and then drive the plot development of the protagonist group. In my original novel setting, Liu Yangxia is one of the main characters. He is the first heir of the strongest guild in the country, the Essence Straits, and is also the descendant of the famous Liu family. In the early part of the novel, he would stand against the protagonist Jin Zhu Hao, but eventually they would become like-minded comrades. Although I didn't know why he would be on my team, judging from my situation, it was important to get involved with Liu Yangxia because the heavier my part in the plot, the more SP points I would receive. I secretly made up my mind. I had to find out what I could do to attract Liu Yangxia. At this time, Liu Yangxia, who was still resting, heard someone calling him and turned around to see that it was Chen Hao Sheng and Ye, who were on the same team. Although the two were very pleased, at this moment, Liu Yangxia did not pay attention to the fact that they were teammates, and when he was sure, he instantly changed his attitude and became very polite, but it seemed that they were only 3 people. Hearing Liu Yangxia wondering who the other team members are, I took the initiative to go forward. He can be said to have no impression of me, but I can't behave in a coy manner, because I know that Liu Yangxia hates cowardly people. Unexpectedly, before I introduced myself, Chen Hao Sheng next to me immediately recognized that I was the one who chose the pistol in the equipment store, and he stated that my reputation in the first year had spread. But seeing that we were still chatting, the instructor immediately appeared to interrupt, and after sending the coordinates of the monsters that each team was going to kill to the smartwatch, today's practical training also officially began. Liu Yangxia, after a long period of exercise, ability value aspects are very high. The speed of the advance is even more robust. But I'm not the same. About to arrive at the destination, I feel like dying. Although my physical attributes are certainly higher than ordinary people, but compared to the Magic Cube, trainees can only be the team's crane seat. After coming to a piece of seashore, we arrived at the training area 8th Coast. The monsters in the area were black current octopus. The ferocity of the other party was unquestionable. Once I arrived as well, Liu Yangxia organized a battle plan. The black stream octopus was a lower intermediate level monster, but his own attack power wasn't strong. The key was his ability to launch 10 small octopus tumors above his head, as these small octopuses had terrifying. Some abilities were also its deadliest part. The 2 of them, Night Moon, thought that if they want to quickly solve the 10 octopuses, it would be best to give this task to me, who is a shooter. Unexpectedly, Liu Yangxia is not in favor of it. He said that the small octopus will be dealt with by themselves, while Chen Shenghao and the Night Moon first to save the strength. The Black Flow Octopus self-healing ability is very strong. Then you need to a hit to solve his fatal parts. But Liu Yangxia's plan is obviously to kick me out of the training, and I think the same. He did not care about me at all, told me not to make a move, and then directly began to take action, probably because I dislike me rushing too slow. Get the instructions of good victory also decisively not the boulder. They began to lure the monster to the shore. This plan is also very successful. See the shore of the human. The Black Flow Octopus will quickly swim over, and the Liu Yangxia had already been poised to attack. The Black Current Octopus did not half hide when it approached, and immediately released the blood-sucking octopus above its head. The speed of these small monsters was strangely fast and incomparable. Even after seeing the other party's attack, Chen Hao Sheng was unable to dodge it. Fortunately, Liu Yangxia struck in time as planned. The whip he wielded managed to kill every single octopus, and Liu Yangxia appeared to be very relaxed, not exerting much effort at all. The robust Chen Hao Sheng calculates that he is completely convinced why Liu Yangxia can be ranked 7th amongst the freshmen in the Magic Cube. After thanking Liu Yangxia, he quickly disengages from the battlefield. The frontal encounter is taken over by Liu Yangxia for the time being, just as he avoids the black slithering octopus's tentacles. Attack! But behind Liu Yangxia appeared a wriggling small octopus, even if the Night Moon in time to find. But the distance is too close at this time. Liu Yangxia simply too late to dodge. But once the small octopus touched, a few seconds will be sucked out of the whole body's blood. And let Liu Yangxia surprised is accompanied by a gunshot sound. The original clarity is in a moment. The person who shot is not far away from me. With the support of the sharpshooter, My pistol can almost be said to be 100 shots. Reacted to the Leo Yixia, very incredible. He did not expect the most despised Jin Hezin will be in the critical moment under their own. Night and Moon, two people also cannot believe that I can be so timely. As for Liu Yangxia, originally still mouth hard saying not to let me not to shoot, but the latter words have not finished. But the next round of the Black Flow Octopus attack has been launched. This time the octopus and the intelligence on the difference, because is not only 10, is more than even Liu Yangxia cannot cope with dozens of. I didn't panic because of this, although the number of monsters is high, but their intelligence is not high. The action track skill easily captured. At this moment is also the best time for me to show my role, because my god shooter has a special skill, bullet time. He can delay the flow of time in 3 seconds, and the next thing I have to do is only one thing. That is to quickly shoot through every blood-sucking octopus. 3 seconds is not a long time in the eyes of Leo. In Liu Yangxia's eyes, it was almost a few breaths of effort to turn back. Being suddenly found, the original large number of octopus was actually all shot into a sieve. Despite seeing everything is very shocking. But Liu Yangxia quickly perceived the information of the battlefield. There is no small octopus over there after the Black Flow Octopus weakness has been unable to stop themselves. Just a moment his whip flew attacked out, and then tightly wrapped around the weakness of the Black Flow Octopus. At the same time, Liu Yangxia quickly reminded his teammates to attack the Night Moon and Chen Haosheng. Without a moment's hesitation he leapt to the monster's head. The next moment the two of them both liberated their magic power under their powerful combined attack. The Black Stream Octopus was killed on the spot without the slightest surprise, and the Truth Class 5 team's actual combat mission was also completed. Looking at the matter finally resolved, I will no longer continue to support lying down. The first time to use the bullet, the time lit me almost exhausted energy. Can hear the electronic broadcast in the 5 teams' total elapsed time is 58 minutes and 58 seconds. Liu Yangxia looks very disappointed, because this achievement is only ranked 16. Until back to the classroom, he from the big screen to determine a right time. Liu Yangxia, this is clear that they were not heard wrong. Although there are drones shooting the whole process, the Academy will also calculate the individual results separately. But what makes him unhappy is that he once again lost to Chai and Ali, the other party's team ranked 4th. When he came to the Rubik's Cube, he was still determined to press the other party from the beginning, but the result was that he lost in the first training. What was even more unacceptable to Liu Yangxia was that the boy next to him had been looking at Chai and A. With that, Liu Yangxia huffed and puffed and walked towards Chai and A when, just as the other party noticed the AURA behind him. Liu Yangxia, however, changed her attitude and became very gentle in greeting Cai and A when he heard that Smokey had come to ask about practical training, he couldn't help but regret that he only took 4th. And after learning that Liu Yangxia's team was 16th, Chai Nan also complimented their team for being great. After all, with a drag-down gunner, it was thank goodness that they could achieve this result. But Liu Yangxia was torn inside, as Chai Nayun said, when they were rushing at the beginning. They could arrive in 10 minutes, and only because of me did they waste 50 minutes. But in the ensuing battle, I played a big role. This contrast between before and after made Liu Nayun unable to say whether it was a drag or not, and being able to kill dozens of blood-sucking octopuses with magic bullets, he wondered more and more about what I was really from. In the days after the end of the actual combat training, I went ahead to exercise my body. So much so that I didn't think to look at the gains from the previous battles until now. At present, the proficiency of my talents has increased by 20%. Perception has been added by 0.03, and triggered the sight and hearing of the lucky later will be improved. At the same time, because of intervening in Liu Yangxia's plot, I also gained a few hundred points of SSB. During this period of time, through the fitness, many ability values have been improved. After looking at all the recent gains, I also ended today's workout. In the evening, in the luxurious area of the student dormitory, Yangxia Liu was staying up late looking at the computer while inside. The content was my performance in training. He watched it over and over again, and eventually came up with a terrifying number, which was that I had fired a full 60 rounds of magic bullets with my pistol in a row within 3 seconds. Liu Yangxia, imagine a human being could pull the trigger 20 times in a second, or does my pistol have a continuous case? After his understanding of this knife, he then realized that there are too many suspicious things on me, and the performance in the battle is so bright, with his understanding of the various talents, but he has never heard of my name. At this time coincided with the message sent to him by Shen Brown Crane. The other party is the same boy who stared at Caina Yuan during the day. Looking at Shen Brown Crane inquired about what he was doing. Liu Yangxia happily said that he was reviewing the disc. And what surprised Liu Yangxia was that he was also a little curious about the gunman in his team, because the actual combat training of the Magic Cube is fully video recorded. Basically, all the people in the academy and all the major organizations in the outside world are able to see it, thanks to being on the same team as Liu Yangxia. So there are people who have watched our team's replay as well. But more people pay attention to the main character Jin Zhuhao, including the vice head of the Creative Lords Guild, Yin Shengya, who is fond of Jin Zhuhao, that's superb sword skills and extraordinary cutting sharp. Yin Shengya understands that the next major top labor unions in the country will be scrambling to pull in the fine cultivation of the good. Of course, he is no exception. Such a clean bottom, sunny and handsome genius. Yin Shengya also wants to do whatever it takes to recruiting Saishu good. But as he continued to watch the video of the actual combat training, he noticed it. An assistant next to a student using a gun said, "Because of you, Yum-ha, many people clicked on the video. And I, the gunman, even caused a lot of talk, creating unbelievable results with just a pistol." Incidentally, I also told Yin Shengya that I changed my main weapon from a sword to a pistol once I entered the Magic Cube. Upon hearing that, he immediately understood that I should have successfully opened the show. In the past, there have been similar cases. After awakening to replace the main weapon that they were originally good at the age of 17 they were able to open the show at a speed that surprised Yin Shengya. But unfortunately, if the main weapon was a firearm, he thought it would be less appealing. After all, the further one goes, the more the disadvantages of modern weapons are gradually exposed. Time passed another 3 days. Today, the Academy had a new training program. This time it was a simulated duel, which was usually conducted in groups of 2 people, using training-specific weapons that didn't cause major injuries. But in the first year of Rubik's Cube, there was only one person who was an exception. The instructor at this time loudly called me up, but as of now, I had already been severely beaten 18 times. Unlike the others, my opponent was an instructor from the academy, and the reason for that was because the training firearms were still being rushed, and the current first-year students could easily get hurt if they used real guns. That's why my mock duel was with an instructor as my opponent. Although with the Divine Archer's clairvoyance effect, I could see the instructor's attack trajectory clearly. It actually depended on whether or not I could keep up with my own speed. At the end of the training, my entire body was tired and out of breath. Continuing, just as I was about to drink a cola and rest, I turned my head, but accidentally saw the departing Liu Yangxia. With the previous experience, the first impression between both of us was not very good. Although she was a character I created, this temper was just too stinky. However, I suddenly thought of the setup I wrote for Liu Yangxia, so I decided to test it right. Immediately after that, I suddenly called out to Yangxia Liu and then threw a can of Coke over. Caught off guard, she didn't understand what I meant, but still instinctively caught the Coke. Reacting, Yangxia Liu wondered if this was a provocation. In response, I said something like, "The last training was in his favor. This is a gesture of goodwill." Of course, I also have a purpose, is to test how much SPD can be obtained by conversing with the protagonist group of people. After listening to my words, Leo Yanixia gently stroked her hair, and then threw the coke back, at the same time, told me not to pretend to be familiar with her appearance. This is the first warning to me. And then, Leo Yanixia will directly turn around and leave, Abercrombie and Fitch. But in the road and walking, he suddenly found that something is not right. Hollister, Leo Yanixia feel the weight of the handbag seems to have changed. So she stopped and opened the bag. It turned out that there is a can of Coke inside, which I just stuffed in. In her anger, she wanted to throw it into the trash can, but when she looked around, she realized that there was no one there. In the spirit of Coke is not guilty, Leo Yanxia then put the Coke back in. Of course, all of this was in my eyes, and this was the setting I gave him. Leo Yanxia loved food such as Coke and burgers, but due to face, he never will show it in front of people. I didn't expect to try with Leo Yanxia's little-known settings, plus a few conversations with him to only gain a mere 4 street points. It seems that it's still necessary to intervene in the main plot. And the next twist in the plot is the demon attack at the S10 Weapons Museum. Demons are humans who have contracted with demons and will trade their souls to the demons in exchange for great power. And this incident was also triggered by the assassination of a certain character. In the novel, the protagonist group just happened to be at the museum to visit the weapons, and then took care of the demons in passing. The others in the protagonist group also took this opportunity before they started to take an interest in Jin Zhu Hao. But this time, the only ones who will take action are Jin Zhu Hao and Caina. After all, the demons in the early stage are relatively weak. It's also good news for me. I feel that I can completely take part in this episode. I first have to find a chance to let them take me to the museum with them as well, first of all. At this time, the instructor told me to hurry back to the dormitory to go. Heard the words, I hastily packed up the computer to leave. But what I didn't realize was that a mail suddenly came to my computer at this time. And soon the opportunity I wanted came, and that was the club activity in the Rubik's Cube. These are small groups of students who organize themselves to conduct activities. There were many types of clubs, involving directions such as academics and martial arts. There are more than 100 clubs in Rubik's Cube. Participating in club activities is not only a process of self-development, but also an opportunity for students to interact with each other. And the one I'm joining today is an activity called the Traveling Club. The reason for doing so is, of course, that the people in the main character group have also joined this club. Looking at the gathering of many of the top first years, the minister, who was an upperclassman, was also shivering a bit at the moment. Slowing down, he still introduced the activities of the travel club to Kim, Suho, and the others, the purpose of which was to take a break. So every month they would use teleportation and then leave the Rubik's Cube for a trip of about 2 times. In order to welcome the new members, the destination of their trip today was chosen to be very close. That is the extremely prosperous and close to the Magic Cube's time. Judging from this episode, it's no different from what I wrote at first. So when the episode happens, I should be able to get SP points comfortably by going to participate in it a little bit. But the minister was talking about a group draw, which surprised me a bit. Did I misremember the plot? What surprised me even more was that I was actually once again in a group with Leo Yanxia, so he didn't hesitate to tell me that it would be fine for me and him to act alone. To which I naturally agreed. After all, when I came here, I wanted to act alone. And in a short while we arrived at his city's weaponry museum, which had more types of weaponry than in the Rubik's Cube. And there was an endless stream of visitors. And Chai Niwen even fell in love with a bow and arrow inside. And since he was here then, that meant Jin Zhu Hao was somewhere nearby. And sure enough, when I turned my head, I found the main character. Seeing that, I walked up. Jin Zhu Hao then noticed me and took the initiative to introduce himself as Jin He Zhen, and then began to strike up a conversation with him. hearing my first name. Only then did he remember that I was the one who chose the pistol. There were too many people before, so Kim Suho didn't pay attention, and I joined the traveling club. And he was talking about how there was a gun showroom on the other side. So do you want to go and take a look together? But before I could open my mouth, a huge vibration came from the museum, and then an emergency broadcast rang out. Currently, there are magical creatures in the periphery of the museum, over and over again, making the human beings inside gradually become fearful in their hearts. By the time someone outside came from the heart-rending pain, everyone began to scramble to escape. One of the little girl was accidentally knocked down by the crowd, but just at that moment. But someone smashed the glass protecting the items with a punch. The piercing sound made the crowd quiet for a while. Everyone was scared by Chai Na-yoon's behavior, and the fine cultivator who had just saved like the little girl was good, and also didn't expect that he would suddenly make a move. Finally, Chai Na-yoon spoke. He told everyone to calm down. The resident heroes are sure to arrive soon, and this situation still have to run out if you will only become the dishes of the monsters. After saying that, Chai Na-yoon also took away the weapon in the shopkeeper. At this time, the museum's anti-theft system also instantly activated. The door to go out was closed. Chai Na-yoon reminds Saishu to get the weapons as well, before the heroes arrive. It is still up to them to protect the masses. But suddenly a crisp footsteps came. Chai Na-yoon immediately sensed the unusual aura. The power emanating from the other party made him quickly go into a fighting stance. This is the demon who came to invade, and is also my design. The villainous demon who came to push the growth of the protagonist saw the first moment Chai Na-yoon and killed towards him, while Jin Ju-hao had already taken out the sword he had just watched. According to the original plot, Jin Ju-hao's strength could easily take care of him, and the next moment the two collided. But the ending was beyond my imagination. Jin Ju-hao was actually sent flying by the demon. Looking at Jin Ju-hao, who fell down beside me with injuries, for a moment I hadn't reacted, because the plot shouldn't have developed like this. I clearly hadn't written this kind of plot. In the novel, although Jin Ju-hao would appear to be at a disadvantage at first when he hid his strength, but when he unbound himself he directly crushed the demon. However, in the current situation, Jin Ju-hao, who was hiding his strength, was directly injured by the demon with a single blow. Hearing me and Chai Na-yoon's inquiry, he said with some trembling, "It's fine. Jin Ju-hao's situation is not optimistic. I have to think of a way to buy him time." While Chai Na-yoon had already gone forward to block Jin Ju-hao's front, and for his bow and arrows, the devils didn't bother to defend at all. After shooting more than 10 arrows in a row, Chai Na-yoon realized that although the attack hit the opponent, it was as if the demon had no sense of pain. This was not a special ability, nor was it the effect of regeneration. Chai Na-yoon was puzzled as to why his attacks had no effect at all. When I noticed this scene next to me, I quickly reminded and told Chai Na-yoon to quickly dodge. But the demon's sharp claws were already about to pierce him through, and just in the nick of time, Jin Ju-hao made a timely move to block the demon. However, his weakened strength was unable to withstand the once again transformed demon in just an instant, and the next moment he was smashed into the ground by the powerful demon. At the critical moment, Choi Na-yoon shot an arrow again, and this time the magic power attached to the arrow had an effect, but his attack also managed to enrage the demon. The other party then gave up on killing Jin Ju-hao, and instead turned to prepare to kill Chai Na-yoon. The speed of the demon claws was too fast, causing Chai Na-yoon to be too late to dodge, and so he was pressed against the wall in a deadly manner. Continuing on, it was clear to me that someone would definitely die. With that, I hurriedly told the rest of the people to quickly disperse. Facing the demon's sudden strength, I held back the fear in my heart and calmed myself down. Next, I have to do something to let Jin Ju-hao and the others take a breather. With ordinary magic bullets alone, they definitely can't do any damage. But since the other party is still a character from my novel, I think the general direction of the character setting is the same. That is to say, this demon must have the dark attribute. Then I started to use the omnipotent intervention setting. I want to change the attributes of the magic bullets. And to change the attributes of the magic bullets, you need to consume more than 1,000 FSP points. After writing the setting and saving it after consuming the points, my magic bullet changed its attributes. The reason why I wrote the attribute restraint setting was also to allow the heroes to utilize more power with a quick load. I then aimed the pistol at the demon. In the next second, I loudly reminded Jin Zhu how to dodge it. The modified magic bullet changed to a white light bullet, that is, the light attribute that restrains darkness. As soon as Jin Zhu Hao dodged, I immediately pulled. Lower the trigger. The distance is very close. This shot instantly hit the demon's arm. Then the white light bullet will emit a dazzling white light. The demon's arm was also evolved into ashes. The intense pain made him unable to stop wailing. Cai Nan, who was controlled by the demon's claws, was also saved as a result, and I managed to buy time for Jin Zhu Hao. How could the demon who was heavily injured be his opponent? After opening the sword Saint, Jin Zhu Hao's aura was completely different from just now. His magic power turned into flames burning on his weapon. The demon suddenly understood that he was supposed to die. The magic power of the sword Saint could cut through everything in the world. This time it was the real end of the battle. Jin Zhu Hao's full force sword split the demon instantly in two. Along with the death of the demon, the first main plot was completed. Jin Zhu Hao stood up a bit staggeringly. Jin Zhu Hao stood up a bit shakily, because that sword now he used once a day is already the limit. While the sober Cai Nan really can't stop dry heaving, even though he is very manly on the surface, but deep down he is still a flower in the hothouse. The life and death line just now made Cai Nan very painful, and Kim Su Ho, who tried to come over to comfort him, was severely slapped away by the panicked Cai Nan. Seeing this, Kim Su Ho did not continue to approach. He knew that now Yoon needs time, but unexpectedly I said indifferently, "Do not care about his brother will soon come to coax him." After all, in the novel I wrote this. However, when the words fell, I felt the air suddenly freeze, whether it was Chai and Ayu or Saishu. Well, they looked at me with an extremely unfamiliar and uncomprehending gaze, and Chai Nanyan was even trembling, and then he couldn't support himself any longer and vomited. Not long after the monsters outside were almost eliminated, many heroes of the S scholarship arrived. Even Yin Shengya was no exception. At this time, members of his guild came over to inform that a demon had appeared inside the museum. But fortunately, it was resolved by the 3 students of the magic cube. This news made Yin Shengya marveled, and then asked which students it was. Upon hearing that there was Jin Zhu Hao involved and stepped in to kill the demon man, Yin Shengya quickly rushed towards the museum. He was excited inside. He didn't expect to run into Jin Zhu Hao here. He didn't want to miss this opportunity to draw closer. Coincidentally at this time, I also walked out from inside, recognizing that I was wearing the school uniform of the Magic Cube. Yoon Sung-ah went up to greet me, and when he was about to ask where Kim Soo-ho was, I directly jumped ahead and told him that Kim Soo-ho was inside. But not long after walking in, Yoon Sung-ah suddenly noticed that something was wrong. She thought about how the other person knew where he was coming from, when she clearly hadn't even opened her mouth yet, but unfortunately turned around and I was long gone. Yoon Sung-ah struck up a conversation with me. It really startled me. Could it also have something to do with the novel's plot changing? After resting for a while, I began to think about the reason why the novel changed. Although this world has an additional character named Kim Ha Jin, my part should be minimal. But soon I thought of an overlooked point. That is, this novel should now have 2 authors, including me. Right. So what happened today is most likely a problem with the other author, thinking that I've entered the world of someone else's adapted novel. And if that's the case, The situation is completely different, which means that all the predictions I've made based on my own novels have been futile and useless. Just as I was panicking about the unknown, the computer's bell suddenly rang with a new message on it. It was a review from another author, my former reader, who thought that every time the protagonist and his sidekick couldn't be threatened in any way, and that would seem too boring. So he rewrote it a little bit in the meantime. As for the first plan, it was to strengthen the villains with a wave first, and by the evening, this event was wrapped up, while the instructor called out to Jin Zhuhao and I. The situation was pretty much understood by him, so he let us go back to the school to rest first. Kim Suho also asked about Choi Na-yoon's situation. The instructor said that he had called in sick and had already been taken to the hospital by his family. Seeing that there was nothing wrong with us, the instructor also left. At this time, Kim Suho suddenly called out my name. He wanted to know why I just said that kind of thing to Na-yoon. Seeing that I was confused, Kim Suho said, "Didn't I mention his brother?" Now I finally understood the reason why they weren't right at that time. Was it possible that there was something wrong with Na-yoon's brother? My appearance made Jin Zhuhao wonder if he was playing dumb, but his headache was too much right now, and then he didn't say anything more. But I was very concerned about this matter, and after quickly returning to the dormitory, I began to look up Chai Na-yoon's family situation, his father. It was Chai Exayan and his brother. It was Chai Zhenyan. Read a lot. And it was exactly the same as what I set out to do. But how did the two of them react that way? Just then, a report caught my eye, and it clearly stated that Chai Zhenyan had successfully rescued his companion in the Martian Child program and had fallen into a coma as a result. The content of the report made me unexpectedly suppress the Demon's Battle Plan Marshall's original plot. Choi Jin-yoon was the battle through which he gained lofty honors, and the then 13-year-old Choi Na-yoon looked at his older brother, who was a gaijin, and felt immense pride. That's the setting that I wrote down. Immediately after that, a new message was sent. On it was the caveat reminding me that the setting with the modification was one that required me to personally notice it before I would provide the intelligence by way of a message. Choi Jin-yoon, the powerful helper of Kim Suho in the later stages of the novel, no longer existed, and considering that the protagonist had too many helpers, the following setting was modified, and the changes were written out 4 years ago. Choi Jin-yoon was heavily burdened with demonic flames after he became a hero, and was unfortunate enough to become a demon seed, but his situation was not known to anyone at the moment. Meanwhile, on the other side, Choi Na-yoon was sitting silently on his bed. He was in a very low mood at the moment. Just then, a man pushes open the door of the hospital room, and it turns out that he is Na-yoon's father, Choi Shin-won. He was so worried about his daughter's condition that he rushed to visit the S room and told his father that he was fine situation. Choi Na-yoon talks about how he wants to meet his brother before he is discharged from the hospital. Upon hearing this, Choi Shin, somewhat surprised, he then agreed to go along. However, in the dormitory, I was having a huge headache at the moment. Demons are higher-level existences than devils, and demon seeds are what they live behind. And when the seeds pass the latency period and take root, the humans will turn into powerful demons. I set the incubation period of the demon seed to 5-6 years, which means that Chai Zhenyu's incubation period is already half over. And if he succeeds in turning into a demon in such a short period of time, he will inevitably cause a widespread disaster. There was only one solution to the current situation, and that was to kill Chai Zhenyu before the demon awakened. But the difficulty is very high. Firstly, his security system must be top-notch, and no mercenary would take on a commission to assassinate a young master of a powerful family. Secondly, the seeds germinate without signs, so I have no evidence to report him. Once the incubation period is over, by then Jin Zhuhao's strength will definitely not be enough to fight against the demons. And even if he sends out powerful heroes on active duty, it's bound to result in a lot of sacrifices. I can't just stand by and watch this happen because they still have to contribute later in the novel. So the only one who can go and kill Choi Jin-yoon is myself. On the other side, Choi Na-yoon's time of visiting the sick is over and now he's being told that it's time to leave. After saying goodbye to his brother, Choi Na-yoon closes the door to his room, but he can't forget what happened earlier. The guy named Kim Ha-jin